Welcome back to the grim darkness of the 41st Millennium. I'm Inquisitor Temperance Pryce, keeper of the Inquisition's Black Library, and this is the third volume in a report on the Valentyne Heresy, an actual play podcast set in the Genesys Adaptation of Warhammer 40k's Dark Heresy RPG. This report features Game Master Tom McGee and players Ryan LaPlante as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt as Attikus Vis, Laura Hamstra as Eli Sharpe, and Del Borovic as Morgan Rhalls. My report shows that the Inquisitorial Band became an unlikely team. Eli faced off with the Inquisitor and stayed in his cell. Morgan's grapplehawk was returned to her. Valentyne recruited several heretical assistants, and Attikus took his first unknowing step down the path, becoming an interrogator. Will they get the info they need from Eli's brain? And will he survive the extraction? Find out next, in this episode of the Valentyne Heresy.
Recruiter's notes. I think Sharpe shows a lot of promise. It's important with recruits to see the ones who will follow an order they think is right and true, as opposed to the ones who have that pesky questioning that we do so hate. Honestly, he'd be a commissar's dream. Eli, your snooze is once again interrupted, most rudely. But this time it is by a foul stench, as well as a pounding that you think is in your skull, but then you rapidly realize is actually on the door. Before the door kind of gives way and creaks open, and immediately the bad smell enters the room, and you hear a sharp intake of breath as Thaddeus Thunderhorn just says, "Oh no! This simply will not do. No." And there's just like a clatter to your left as something is swept off a table, and then you just start hearing the little tinkering of rusty and admittedly somewhat smaller. Like he can only carry so many Aquilas just being set up around the room. He's like throwing them up onto things, and is generally just zhuzhing the place up a bit. Given that you're still very, very probably both drunk and hungover, just at the witching hour Venn diagram of what I do. This is a lot of hassle. I mean, the good news is you're able to throw up a bunch of it into a hat that meant nothing to no one. So that's good, but it's still a bit of a rude awakening. How do you react to this beastman just kind of like flurrying around your room?
Eli springs off the table and just shouts like, "Out of my sight, abomination!"
Well, that is a fair assessment of my being. Yes, it wouldn't be too much trouble. I did spend a long time in school, so...
Am I hallucinating or am I understanding you?
You are understanding me. I do speak Gothic rather well, I do believe. It is merely my hideous and blasphemous body that has betrayed itself to the mutation forces. But rest assured, my brain and my soul are at yours and the God Emperor. And he like takes out his necklace, kisses it, and puts it back in. At your service.
All right, then do your service. Get the hell out.
Good sir, I'm afraid my service is
Guard!
You.
Guard!
And one of them just leans in and shakes their head apologetically, and then just closes the door.
And Eli, like, just his demeanor changes from, like, outraged to just, like, he just has this fucking, like, resignation of, like, oh, right, I forgot. Par for the damned Inquisition.
Yes, the best services available, I agree. You see, we do understand each other, friend.
Oh, no, we don't.
Now, I understand that you are in a degree of discomfort and perhaps some disassociation. You mentioned hallucinations. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, you're talking like a human. That's not right.
Yes, I agree. It is truly a dark mark on an otherwise perfect plan, as are all mutants, xenos, and heretics. And he full body shudders. Like, you can tell it's pained him to say these words. He says, but, of course, the glory of the Emperor extends even to this small room, and though I am not worthy to even look upon him, let alone think of him much, he like kisses the necklace, puts it back, says, for some reason he has seen fit to scrape a creature such as myself off the bottom of his boot and put it into service. And that service is you. And then he rushes forward. He puts his hands on either side of your face.
God,
and he leans his head against your head.
Eli's like trying to like slap him away.
Oh, it doesn't matter. He is so strong and you are not. And he just says, tell me what ails you that I may cure it in the name of the Emperor.
And like Eli's trying to like push him, like basically kick like whatever he can. I mean, he's military trained, like just saying.
You know what, Laura? Okay, fine. You can have it. I want athletics and brawl, please.
Wait, what? Oh, brawn? Oh.
Yes,
athletic.
yes.
Okay.
Sorry, brawn. Yep. So we'll take those.
Mhm.
He has a lot of he's got a lot of brawn. So your difficulty is going to be 5.
Yeah, that's fair.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe we're sitting at 1 in 4 in my favor. We didn't do a lot of story points
Yeah.
last round, so I'm going to spend a story point to start evening the board here. Because you know what?
That's the reason you're doing it.
Faith in the Emperor is so fucking strong that it is, you know, coursing through his muscles. I'm going to give you a setback for being kind of drunk and hungover and having just woken up. And also, like, you hate Xenos. I'm sure you hate mutants, but like, really, your beef is with Xenos. So like, you don't get, you know, Rage of Ages on this one. Anything else you wanna push for there, Laura?
If there's anything that's on the table that I can just like scrabble for and grab quickly, I would really like to be able to use my bar brawler
Probably a meat
talent,
on there.
which gives me an advantage to unarmed melee. There we go. I don't even need to grab a weapon.
You were the weapon all along, my friend.
Yep.
That meat pie for eating.
So, Laura, what does that skill do?
It just gives me 1 advantage.
Awesome.
Automatically.
Great, love that. Cool. I think that's it for this sequence of events. Let's roll them bones.
All right, let's see what happens. Okay, this is weird. 4 advantages, 1 triumph, 2 failures. Do with that what you will.
Fuck me. I don't know, man. That's so weird. Okay.
Yeah, right?
All right. Okay. Here's what I think we're gonna say.
I could knock them prone, but
if you want, yeah. Like I basically like the way I want to kind of play triumphs and advantage is the way we have been playing it over the past little while. Is I'll just recommend something I think would be fun for it. The Genesis book has a number of actions that you're certainly welcome to take. So please always feel free to override me. If you're like, what I really want is this, feel free to have it. Because I have something for you for the triumph if you want it. But if you just want to knock them prone.
For the triumph, well, things so I can, because I haven't used an incidental this round, I have Bull Rush, which lets me use 3 advantages to knock a melee target prone and move them up to 1 range band away from me.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Because I honestly like Eli's feeling like he does not like this guy on him.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay, so here's what happens. Eli, you like this is your kind of fight where someone is grabbing you. You know, it's like all those martial artists who do like wrist like taekwondo or anything else where you just like, or like Aikido talks about this a lot, where you just like fuck with joints and things, where it's like, oh, cool, thanks for the hand, and then you just wreck the person. Having hands on both sides of your face gives you so much room to move. So I think you just get your arms up and under, headbutt them, and then just like punt them through the door.
Yeah.
So we'll say you move him the range band, you knock him prone. I'm gonna say the triumph is he like smashes backward through the door and out. Into the gardens, and
now those failures.
Yeah. Well, the failure is that he lets out a sob, and kind of gets up, like holding his ribs where you hit him, and like yelling to the guards, and he just takes off at a run. And the failures mean that he doesn't help with any of your pain, or get you in any better state, or anything that might help you stop what's coming when Morgan arrives, because you're not exactly
like
going
success
to
to
be
me.
super clear here.
It feels like success to Eli.
It sure does. But like, isn't that kind of the way of the drunk? Like everything feels like, oh man, I just broke into a train station. What could go wrong?
Rip Torn somewhere's going, this is my house.
Yeah, exactly. That was just incredible. Look that up if you haven't, friends. It's quite a thing. All right, so Eli, you're left alone in this this garden shed that's now full of Aquillas for a moment or two. You regain no strain from either your bad nap or from the assistance the doctor could have given you. Is there anything you want to do in the moments before Morgan arrives?
Yeah, get back onto the table and try to fall asleep again. That's it.
Oh, buddy. I mean, in the same way that like Valentyne is just constantly trying to get back on stopping the visions he saw, you're just constantly trying to get that nap. That's your series arc. 100 years, Eli Sharpe. We're going to have lots of adventures, Eli.
My motivation.
We're going to get that nap, Eli. We're
My
going to do it.
My desire is sleep.
Yeah, it's just a really shitty, like...
Simple needs.
Yeah, it's a shitty randomizer where it's like, my character, awesome, like master at arms. What's his motivation? Sleepy. So Eli, you've just managed to drift back off to sleep, and I gotta tell you, as someone who's constantly struggling with a baby who won't quite let him sleep, like there's a degree of tired where you're like, oh, it's not gonna take much to just ride on into Sleepy Town, and that's where you're at. You managed to just crest that perfect wave of like, good, finally. When Morgan arrives. Now, Morgan, you've had some time. You and Toby have gone for a walk after leaving Valentyne and Attikus. Is there anything you'd be thinking about, contemplating, anything going on in your head as you go?
Yeah, for one, she would have left Toby with Valentyne and Attikus in that room, just sitting on some boxes somewhere, watching everything. Just bird eyes on that whole situation, just in case.
What, you don't trust Gideon Kotov, world's most trustworthy Mechanist Magi?
Yep. And then otherwise, all she's thinking is just going to try to accomplish this because things are going well so far. She also is just very paranoid, so she's shying away from any other person who walks down the hallway next to her. She's just trying to keep track of all of her surroundings while doing this and making her way to where I assume they told her Elias.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that's fine. So you're if there's one thing the Inquisition's Citadel is pretty good at, it's not, if you're not supposed to be paying attention, you are most assuredly not paying attention. So people just, there's no one's giving you any grief. And honestly, like you've always pretty much looked like a member of Inquisitorial retinue anyway, so like fucking sure. So yes, you arrive at the shed. Toby, Attikus, and Lucius, of course, continuing to deal with Kotov back in his lab and getting things ready there. What's your? Well, I mean, we can just play this out. But as with the previous interrogations. When we need to go to the dice, we'll go to the dice, so we don't end up in like two kids on the playground being like, I've got a laser. Well, I've got a laser-proof shield. Well, my laser shoot bullets. Well, my shield also catches bullets, type thing. You want to know what my elementary school was like?
I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I know you are. So yes, just as you fall asleep, you are awakened yet again, Eli, as Morgan arrives. Morgan, how do you wake Eli up? This is a common occurrence for you. This is not this is a thing you do fairly regularly.
Yeah, I think she would see him laying on the table, they're snoozing. She would get up on the table and sit right next to him, like her whole hip and leg again. She has zero respect of his personal space. She's just like up in his business. And then she would just lean over and, Eli, what are you still doing here?
Huh? Oh, it's you. You know, sleep.
Yes. Do
What do you mean still doing here? Where else am I going?
Well, I am not still in a cell, am I?
I mean, the door's open. I assume I just like, did the guards repair the door?
No, it got like blown off its hinges. Also, the danger to the amount of like ornate filigree and shit that's in here means that like it's not an easy fix. You got to fix the cast iron frame in order to put the door joints back in. Like, look, sometimes it's easier to just get a hinge. All I'm saying.
Well, you met the new Inquisitor. What do you think?
I mean, he's an Inquisitor.
Yes, that is true.
No, Eli does go on. Look, I don't know what he told you, but he's got some mission to save the Emperor, and I'm going for it.
All right, I thought you might. I figured you might get along with them all these military types. You have secret handshake or something. And pretend you're in the Navy again.
They're not Navy. You think it's all the same, don't you?
Yes, it is.
It's not.
All right, well, they sent me because they want you to have your brain looked at by some machine.
What?
I'm telling you. They want me to convince you, but I'm just asking you very nicely to please be going along with things. Ugh. I know you like to be
Eli's
stubborn.
just like rubbing his temples, just like trying to like kind of focus on what the hell this means. Like, okay, look, can you just pretend like I can't make any assumptions or make any leaps of logic right now in the state I'm in? Just like explain to me what the heck is happening.
Yes. They have some mechanicus madman who wishes to look in your brain. Perhaps mine too. But
why?
I don't know. The Inquisitor is looking for something. Something. I don't know what we have, but if we go along with it, then we can get off of this planet.
Oh. So they're just... Yeah, no, we're just gonna die, aren't we?
I don't think so. It seems this Inquisitor is new. He needs people. He doesn't seem like he wants us to die instantly.
Let me guess. There's no saying no to this, is there?
This is what I'm saying to you, so please be polite.
Waited 5 years to get off this rock.
Yes.
Well, I think Eli's just like... like he knows enough about the Inquisition from his short time in it that like it's just you don't someone like above your above you in the chain of command wants you to do something, it's gonna happen. So
Laura, just as a caveat to all of this, how does Eli feel about Cainhurst? I mean, obviously we've dug a little bit into your feelings toward the Navy and your feelings about what Cainhurst asked you to do, which it seems like you've agreed was necessary and the correct action, but then like you paid a price for it. But I'm kind of curious because part of this is, and I mean, I don't know that Eli necessarily explicitly knows this, but part of the ask is we need to go find Cainhurst's lost expedition. So is that the kind of like, was Eli, and like from my side of like what I know of your past, you didn't get to spend a lot of time with Kanehurst, other than you had drinks on the planet that one time, and then oopsie poopsie gene stealers. So I feel like you may feel more kinship to him than he necessarily did to you or Morgan, given that he was kind of like an at distance Inquisitor to some degree. But yeah, how does Eli feel about Kanehurst?
Eli knows, like, he's quite sure that Kanehurst assessed the situation correctly. So he definitely agrees with the decision he made. Slightly resentful that he did this service to the Navy and was not rewarded for it. And Kanehurst, I think he feels probably Kanehurst could have done more for him. Like, yeah, there's probably a bit of a sore spot there for sure.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool. So, where we left off conversationally, you were coming around to the realization that when someone above you in the Inquisition says something is true and you have to do it, you're going to do it. Is that roughly where Eli falls on this?
Yeah. And like, he wants to get off. He's so done with being here. Mm-hmm. So whether it's like on a ship or like dying in surgery, he's just like, I'm leaving this rock. Like, he's at he's in a pretty bad place right now. So
excellent.
Morgan will just give him like a shoulder pat, like there.
Great. So with that, the two of you make your way back through the Grim Garden, back to Gideon Kotov's lab. Attikus and Valentyne, where we last left off, Valentyne, you'd managed to stop Attikus from just pulping this heretical Jeff Goldblum talking son of a bitch, who is again just like down in his weird little like workshop, almost chained up. He's got the machine ready to go, popping his goggles back in. Well, you've had a bit of time with him now as Morgan goes off to convince Eli. You've had time where the two of you can do other things. You can talk more to him. You talk to Graves. What do you think you would have been doing? Well, Morgan and Eli had their little heart to heart.
Valentyne would have been interested in the procedure itself and the machines that are surrounding with it. He needs to know how accurate this thing is, how much can be pulled out, what are the potential costs, all that kind of stuff, because he's very mission oriented. This guy is a tool to be used and probably thrown away, but maybe it'll keep being useful.
Look, that's up to possible future interrogator over here. So
that's true.
We'll see. Attikus, what would you be doing during this?
Attikus was given a secret mission, and it is mission start now. He is standing in the doorway, just staring daggers at this guy, waiting for him to fuck up so we could kill him.
Gotcha. All right, amazing.
Yay.
So, Kotov gives you the tour, Valentyne. You can tell as you kind of got from his opening lines, like he just loves talking about this stuff, and you get the sense that Graves dumped him down this well specifically so he could not talk to anyone. But could continue to work, because as with some of these tools to be used and then expended in the Inquisition, you sometimes end up with people like him, proper heretics who are useful to a point, but also dangerous to keep around, but like too useful to discard, but too dangerous to enable. So the chance to actually talk someone through some of this is a treat for him. So he takes you over to the rig. And he basically says, what you need to understand about the kind of work that I do. Well, I hear a lot of the Inquisitors, they talk about the various theories, right? And mine was it was based around psychers, and various parts of the mind that we don't understand anymore. The Xenos, they've got some interesting ways of communicating, of working. You look at the you look at the Tyranids and their hive mind. I mean, that's a hell of a thing, right? You look at the Necrons, they're tomb ships.
Yes, about the thing we're going to do
yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
that's what we're talking about there.
Wonderful. If we could try this at
Mr.
1.5 times speed, that would be excellent.
Yeah, great. All right. So, in attempting to do what Inquisitor Billingberg wanted, I built this machine to create a full brain scan. We call them templates. So for example, and he like pulls out some, it's 40K, so it's not like a bunch of data slabs. It's more like a giant tome, and then also a bad Android tablet, and then like a collection of other small books. And he kind of points to me and says, for example, when I was building the Abigail template, we just took all the thoughts and good deeds that someone had done. We're able to pull those out and then just imprint them on really anyone, which got me thinking, if we can do that, why can't we just analyze what we're taking out? So I started tweaking things and changing things along the way. It's truly a fascinating science. But this allows me to, you use the tomb ships, it allows me to send a consciousness and imprint it even remotely on, willing or otherwise subject. Best if they're blanks, but, work with what we got. But it allowed Billingberg far reach in these other places. But of course, I realized if we're doing this work, why not take a look at what we're seeing? Why not make some changes? Why not make some improvements if we need to? So basically, you're just getting step one of a multi-step process here. I could throw this guy you're bringing here. I could probably throw his brain across the galaxy. Hell, if you ever want to do something far away without any danger to your person. In a different quadrant or something, like I'll help you out. We just send your brain to another tomb ship.
Interesting. So you're saying we could replicate essentially other Inquisitor Lucius Valentynes throughout the galaxy, one with each tomb ship.
That's what I'm saying. And any member of your retinue, really. The problem is that usually the subject pushes back a little bit. It's something I never really solved. It got to a point where I was even mixing a little bit of myself in. A little bit of Kotov to try and balance things out a little bit, try and balance out their brains a little bit. I don't know if it worked, but it's a delicate science. It's never exact, but hell, it's easier than putting yourself to sleep for 100 years to travel across the galaxy, particularly if you got something important or nefarious to do. Am I right?
Yes. Are you an expert in cloning, creating those blank bodies that you spoke of?
No. I'm much more concerned about the spirit within the machine, the consciousness, and how it travels. That's generally why we used convicts, lunatics, people who looked into the void looked back. People had a theory of chaos, a chaos theory. We tend to use those folks a lot.
Excellent. How long does doing one of these scans take?
Well, the scan itself doesn't take very much time at all. It's the sending that's hard. But yeah, this guy you're bringing down here, no, we'll be done in a couple of hours. Depending on the state of his mind, of course. It's helpful if it's it's an organized brain. If it's got like a Dewey Decimal System in there, we can just go around and look for what we need. Like I tell you, this golden boy I took apart. Wow, his beliefs were rock solid. He was an easy pull. Some of the guys I've imprinted that brain onto, though, much different case. So as long as this guy's mind is, if it's not cluttered, it'll be fast. If it's cluttered, it's probably going to take a bit longer.
Excellent. One of my concerns with my ongoing missions has been what will happen if I die. There are great questions surrounding this. If we could speed up your process to allow some sort of 5 minutes to maybe 60 minutes scan to take place, where we could imprint someone in the case of my death, then I could simply plug myself in once a day on an ongoing basis. We could replace me if I'm eliminated. Is this possible?
It's not outside the realm. The part of the problem is the storage of these things. But look, I'm going to be honest with you here. I could probably use a little bit more Necron tech to make this work. Eldari would work too. But yeah, you get me a little bit more of the good spirit, and he lovingly strokes some of his Xenos infused machines. He says, yeah, I can do that. In the meantime, though, once you're convinced of the veracity of my methods here, we can just take an imprint of you now, and that one's an easy thing to store. Hell, we'll just upload one to all available tomb ships now. There'll just be one of you in every sector. Won't have all the memories and shit, but honestly, there's a lot of degradation with the sending and everything else. I tell you, the astropath acquired does not love how I transfer this information. So we also got to keep that kind of quiet. you know.
Excellent, excellent. I'm tremendously interested to work with you. This is going to be a bright future for the Imperium. Long live the Emperor. Strange gifts in strange places.
And there it is. And at that, Eli and Morgan, you return. But Attikus, you look like you're having a big reaction up the stairs. So before they arrive, what's going on for you, bud?
Yeah, this is more of a Tyler question. How blasphemous or heretical was that conversation just now that Attikus was listening to? Like,
all the way down,
was that?
Monfrere. Okay. Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Xenos.
Textually, I don't think you'd know about the tomb ships, realistically.
No.
Necrons are aliens, so you might know that. Yeah, Tom, I don't know. What do you think would actually translate?
Talking about cloning and transferring your consciousness.
So those things in and of themselves, given that he's touching machines, I think you could make the argument with all the Adeptus Mechanicus stuff that, like, if it was just machine spirit E, because there's that gray area with the Mechanicus, I think you could, like, this is one of those, like, realms of blasphemy where it's like, I mean, the only, like, I'm thinking in, like, Judeo-Christian terms, like, well, I mean, wine gets mentioned a lot in the Bible, so I guess it's fine if I get wasted on wine. Like, it's that kind of thing where it's like, you can just, if your brain wants it to not be heretical, you can kind of edge into it not being heretical. The things you can't get over are when he's, like, patting a machine and being like, bring me more Xenos tech.
Okay.
That's a problem,
Right.
because the Xenos shouldn't, like, all things Xenos should be destroyed.
Okay.
According to, like, the letter of the law for the Imperium. Now, of course, that's not how the Inquisition works, but I think for the more radical Attikus, this is like Fishik in the Eisenhorn books, like someone who is just like dyed in the wool letter of the law. This is the Emperor's will. Yeah, that's a little bit more iffy. Okay, honestly, though, the cloning thing, like that, you probably wouldn't know this, but like that's how we get Space Marines sometimes. So not the worst thing, but also Fabius Bile. So. Okay. And like Ryan, I guess the other question for actually that is relevant to the tomb ship thing, how much about our season 2 adventures? I mean, Valentyne doesn't know very much about what happened there, but how much would he have told Attikus? Like, would you have told him about Fabius Bile? Would you have told him about the new men?
Yeah, I think he told him about that so that there was clear, like, the work was being done. It's come up in multiple conversations. Like, Attikus is pretty clued into what's going on. Valentyne has weirdly always been like, well, if I die, Attikus probably won't be able to continue the mission. But if somebody shows up to interrogate Attikus, he can relay all the things that have kind of happened nearby.
Okay, so the main reason I ask is, Attikus, I think for you then, the only time you've ever even heard the word clone is in association with Fabius Bile and the new men, which would mean that, yes, this is horrendously skirting the edge.
Okay.
Do you want to? Is this like a role play moment for you, or do you want to roll some dice on this?
I was just trying to get an idea of how jarring this conversation is to see Valentyne engaging with the heretic conversationally and apparently in like a quite amicable way. You talk about him stroking the machine and being like, "Bring me more Xenos." Valentyne in that moment like didn't like say like, yes, you got a deal kind of thing. So that's like not a big issue for Attikus, but it's more like watching Valentyne engage this person like intellectually as if his insane ramblings had merit. That is concerning, but at the same time, I feel like they're talking a different language than what Attikus speaks,
That's fair. So I think then, Tyler, what it's sounding like is observationally something rubs you the wrong way. Like it's a seed has been planted basically with this conversation, built off of the previous conversation around where, like, for the first time, Valentyne really did kind of put down his foot about like, let's let the heretic talk, which was a surprise, I think, to Attikus. So seed has been planted. It's nothing to act on immediately, but it is something to be aware of. Yep. Morgan and Eli, you arrive. How do you walk up? It's like a stagger. Is Eli like over a shoulder? What do we see when you arrive?
Eli wouldn't want to walk into the room leaning on Morgan. So I don't know like how much time has passed. If he's still like, I don't think he's still like staggering drunk? Like this is more
No,
like
I think you've entered like rough morning after
Yeah.
phase where you're still like, you wouldn't legally be able to drive a motor vehicle in places that have such laws in our world, but in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium where there's only war, who knows?
Yeah, so I think Eli's starting to clue into the fact that maybe he should make a better impression than what he's made already. So his coat is back on, and it's like the clasps are done up, and
Okay.
and he's run fingers through his hair.
Yeah, I think
Kind of it.
in terms of like how you're feeling right now, I would say you're at the like, we were just thinking of The Wire, but like dock worker early morning, like had a rough night, but I'm like functionally ready to get back at it. Let's go. So still not feeling great, but
Yeah,
this is probably how you start most days, so you're used to it. If not feeling tremendously
100%.
good, it's business as usual. Okay. So Valentyne, a very different Eli Sharpe kind of arrives and descends the stairs.
Wonderful. Mr. Sharpe, welcome. Have you been treated by the doctor to increase your sobriety and overall physical condition?
no, sir, I have not.
But we sent one. There was the large beastman fellow,
The
Aquilus.
abomination. Yes, I may have slightly overreacted to his presence.
What injuries did you do to the abomination, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, it ran away, so I figured nothing too bad.
Yes, but what explicitly? If you could just assist me by letting me know, that would be fantastic.
If I can think back, probably maybe sprained wrists. Hopefully not a concussion. I mean, his back kind of flew through a door, so probably
Alright,
some
so-
bruises.
So headbutt, sprained wrist, probably some rib damage is what we're saying. All right, I had given a command that there should be Inquisitorial stormtroopers to assist my doctor. Who is in charge of the Inquisitorial stormtroopers in this room?
And there's a real like stormtroopers who don't know who to blame look around, and then finally a sort of like short squat stormtrooper steps forward and snaps into a sharp salute and says, Maximus Prime, captain of the stormtroopers on guard, sir.
Pleasure to meet you, Maximus. Now, did you give the order for someone to go, or did you forget?
Oh, so we did send stormtroopers, but well, and there's if he could do like the cloud strife, like old Final Fantasy behind the head scratch sheepish thing, he would, but he's wearing a helmet, so it's just like a weirdly innocuous gesture. It says, sir, I did instruct the stormtroopers to give the patient and the doctor privacy due to the oaths of the Medicae. My husband, he studied those, and it's very important to leave doctor and patient time, you see. But I see now the grave error I had by following such peacetime concepts.
Eli looks to Maximus, looks to Inquisitor. He forgot.
Wonderful. Could I see your helmet, please?
Of course, sir. And he like clicks his helmet off. Also, Eli, can you roll me a? Because there were stormtroopers there. They were outside. They gestured to you and closed the door. They were physically
were
present.
those stormtroopers? Oh, okay.
Yep. But are
I
guess
okay.
let's
No,
roll-
that was just me. Like
no,
not
I know,
realizing
but I
those
think
were
it's worth.
stormtroopers.
It's how you remember it, though, right? So I think what I want is to figure out if Valentyne can read that you're just like sure whatever, or if it's just because I don't think you're lying. I literally think
'cause
this is like it was earlier today.
Eli would have clocked anyone else present,
Okay.
like in the state he was in. Yeah. So I think this is more just like this guy's obviously made a mistake, and so this is kind of Eli being like, this guy should be punished.
Okay, great.
Regardless of
That's why I want the roll. Perfect.
Yeah.
So Eli, from you then, I'm gonna need. Oh boy, this is gonna be a fucking shit show. Skullduggery, I think,
Uh-oh.
or deception. It's one of the two.
Do you want to use my perception as the difficulty, Tom?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Wonderful. Well, I'm looking at you with my robot eyes, Eli. So the difficulty is 5, and 3 of them are upgraded.
I think it's like a skullduggery, but you have to realize that like him saying this is not like having to lie to. It's not like a lie. It's like more. It's almost like a half.
It's
joke.
a sin of omission. Oh, it's a half joke.
Well, kind of like this guy has to be punished for whatever, and he's taking so much time explaining this that like it should be dismissed. Like his reason is ridiculous.
No, totally fair. And this is literally just like as Valentyne takes the measure of the man that is Eli Sharpe. What measure does he take? Is it in centimeters? Is it in inches? We'll find out. Okay, cool. So Laura, so skullduggery with cunning. Your difficulty is 5.
With 3 of them
upgraded.
Yeah.
3 of them upgraded. Okay.
I'm gonna give you a boost because I think the tone in which you're doing it, the stakes are so low that there's an easy confidence to this. Because honestly, this sounds like the kind of shit you would have been able to pull on the ship so easily when, you know, some ensign was fucking around, or there was like, this is like kind of classic military ball busting. It's not, you know, have them hanged.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. And I think that's
just
it.
Roll it.
Yep.
Oh, and of course, 2 advantages, 4 failures, because there's no way I was going to pass that.
Spectacular. So we'll say, Valentyne, I honestly don't think this changes what you're about to do much, but you do read it. I think the advantages though go towards Valentyne. You also track the tone, the humor, and the intent behind why Sharpe made that comment. Like, he's not lying to you. He's not trying to pull one over on you. It's like a weird petty rank thing.
Yep. He logs it. And the moment that the helmet comes off, he'll take off his own cap to compare the helmet and the cap. And then he's going to headbutt the stormtrooper captain in the face, grab the wrist, and crack it with his metal hand so he can break the wrist, and then just gut punch the captain with his metal arm as well to do the same kind of rib damage. And then just say, "That'll be an education for you, Captain. You can have those treated once my doctor is treated. Oh, and Eli, you made an innocent mistake. One couldn't blame you. At the same time, one must learn. Once we're aboard ship, you'll spend 1 week serving as the doctor's assistant."
Eli kind of grinds his teeth, but he takes a moment before responding, knowing that this is a very important moment, and also seeing what Valentyne just did to the stormtrooper with very little effort. So, obviously, he means business. Eli, he's not going to say anything. He's just going to nod. If he's going to object, he will object later.
And Valentyne will give the captain back the helmet. Now he's totally polite, as though he never hit this person. Gets his cap back, brushes it off, puts it on. Well, I believe it's time for us to move forward with this procedure.
And the captain, like, painfully rises to full, to standing, and snaps you a quick salute with the broken wrist, and like hand trembling, but it's just like classic fucking hard case thing. Hand down, and then just like resumes his post.
Wonderful. Lord Inquisitor Graves, if I may request, a commendation be added to this stormtrooper's record alongside the demerit.
And he just like smirks a little bit and shakes his head, and then puts a hand on your shoulder in a vaguely fatherly way, and just says, "Inquisitor Valentyne, I can't tell you how nice it is to have a new face and fresh blood around these parts. Truly, it is a pleasure." And then he like yells to some fucking like, you know, servo skull to like put the commendation in. With a kind of a sharp nod to you, he says, "I will leave you to your procedure. I suspect, based on what I've heard so far, it is best I am less aware of what transpires here than I would be if I were to observe it with my own eyes. Do you feel confident with the tools we've provided you?
Yes, I believe this will be more than enough. And should they not function, I will happily dispose of them.
As one does with all non-functioning tools. And he simply nods to you, Attikus, Morgan, Eli, and with a sweep of his cape, because I didn't mention earlier, he is wearing a very epic cape in the way that only a proper Inquisitor can. He ascends the stairwell up and out. And I think the stormtroopers probably do as well. They follow in his wake. They take up positions kind of at the top of the well where they're far enough away that they can't really see what's going on, but close enough that if they had to fast line down, or honestly probably just jump and break their legs, but then maybe shoot something, they could do it. You are left with Kotov and his machine. And turning around, he just gives you that kind of lopsided, if winning grin, and says, well, all right, let's crack open that old noggin, shall we? From the private log of Gideon Kotov.
Sorry.
So, what will happen to my son? You say this will clear up my debt. Yes, of course. Entering the template project is it's we're indebted to you, really. The Imperium is indebted to you. So we'll just put your son in the machine. We'll run some tests. We'll pick up on all the stuff that makes him tick, and just send it out into the galaxy. Just. It'll be like your son is alive everywhere instead of just here. That's fine. And what will happen to him? Well, we have servitors to mop up the mess later. But hey, what do you care? You're debt free, right? Eli, it's time to find out what's going on inside that mind of yours. Surely a nice, simple tiptoe through the tulips is where we're headed. The happiest man in the retinue, Eli Sharpe. So we talked about this a bit in season 2 and kind of what these brain scan machines look like. Because again, 40K tech is like a weird kind of nightmare realm of some incredibly advanced, incredibly capable, mechanically sound patterns that have been found and replicated, but everything is kind of a knockoff at this point, right? It's either old, or it's like, cool, we have the blueprints, we could build it. We don't know how it works. We don't know how to replicate it. We can mix and match with what we've got, but we can't, there's no innovation anymore other than just we bolted the thing to the other thing, ta-da! And as a result, a machine like this that has been custom built, particularly using Xenos tech, is a bit of a marvel to behold. It's not nearly as big as sort of the full-size room rig we saw previously. This is instead much more of a, I'm thinking almost like a horizontal version of a Borg recharging station, where it's got kind of a big wacky lightning panel. Certainly some restraints, very much in kind of if you're going to strap someone to a gurney kind of restraints.
Yeah.
But the actual what you lay down on, Eli, before you get strapped in, is almost a comfortable gel, which is wildly strange to you, and I think uncomfortable in the way that if you're used to sleeping on a firm mattress, getting onto a gel anything is just it's your body isn't used to comfort.
I assume I'm fairly stripped down for this, or is this sorry? Is it gel as in
it's
liquidy gel, or gel with a firm surface?
It's I should clarify. It's a firm surface gel. So
Okay.
it looks like a cushion, but then you sink into it and it kind
Gotcha.
of takes on your form, which is again just unnerving when you're expecting this will hurt, and it's oh no, this doesn't hurt. I hate this. So I think we'll say that you've probably they've stripped off your jacket. You're probably just in a singlet. The process has been refined a lot since the Abagnale pattern was developed, and part of the many iterations of this that Kotov has made over the years means that he assures you it's a much less messy process than when he started, and we've come a long way since he had to dig out those memories a little more literally. So you're you kind of like rest down onto this like what we would almost think of as like almost a crash pad for like in terms of the amount of give it has.
Mhm.
You sink into it, and he comes over with a helmet that you can tell is at one point was an Eldari helmet. It's been heavily modified. There's a lot of very clear like Mechanicus tech, so skulls, but also cogs. Normally just spikes and skulls. Mechanicus loves cogs and skulls. So there's lots of cogs and skulls kind of all over this. But it's clearly been rebuilt, and kind of like a lot of stuff has been sort of like fused onto it in such a way that it's recognizable as an Eldari helmet almost in form only, like in silhouette only. For those of you who aren't familiar with kind of Eldari helmets, they're very tall. I mean, the early Eldar designs were basically just space elves. So if you think like a classic kind of pointed elven helmet, it's kind of that with a little bit more sleekness to it, and sort of almost interlocking plates down onto a faceplate. Faceplate itself has been removed. So we're almost looking at like a Centurion helmet in some ways, but a bit classier. It is, I think, again, Attikus, to things like you don't necessarily know what the Eldari look like, but you sure hate seeing an alien helmet, because that's very clearly what this is, being kind of lowered onto your face. And Eli, inside, you find that there are a number of screens, and unlike the sort of constant 1980s Escape from New York style or Star Wars like interference screens you're used to, these things are crystal clear. The viewer would know them as like Tau technologies, like very, very highly advanced, very slick, very cutting edge. For you, it's like a window into a place you aren't. It's very strange and kind of awful. And to have screens that close to your eyes is just generally unpleasant.
And Eli says that, is Valentyne in the room?
Yeah, everyone is crowded around you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I said, sir, you sure about this?
Yes, entirely.
All right, carry on.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah, great. So he like clicks the helmet in, and puts kind of some, the classic like, electrodes, to, on your cheeks, on your forehead. And then he slides a couple of gauntlets forward, and sinking your hands into them, this is like a liquid gel that kind of closes around your hands. You can still move your fingers, like your fingies are still mobile. It's just against resistance. And he just says, don't mind the goopiness. It'll it's just there to help monitor your vitals. Realized after a few less successful attempts, I had to keep a pretty close eye on the subject to make sure we could, not need as many cleanup crews.
Commentary isn't necessary.
Yeah, all right. Fine. So he gets that all set up, and then he kind of like wheels over a monitor that is very much just a standard Imperium grade large monitor, and he turns to you, Valentyne, and says, "All right, well, I think we're ready to go here." So you're looking for specific information inside this guy's head, right?
Yes. I believe that inside our friend Mr. Sharpe's head there is information pertaining to the final location or the final resting place of Inquisitor Canehurst's lost vessel. I require that location.
All right. Yep. Okay. So we're looking for secret information. We're looking for something that's been embedded. We're looking for something that has been mapped onto your mind. That's great. That's exactly what this thing is for. Question for you though, Inquisitor. This Canehurst guy. Is he a psyker? Valentyne, you would know from what Ivanikov has brought you that there's no record of Canehurst having psycho abilities.
Canehurst was not. I do believe at least one member of his retinue was.
Ah, all right, okay. So it could just be a psycho thing. Could be a different thing. That's good. That's good information. Okay. Mr. Sharpe, just sit back and relax and clear your mind best you can. And with that, he just goes and grabs a proper fucking Frankenstein switch and just throws that shit. And there's just a blast of electricity. There's an oddly uniform hum that is almost cordant, I guess. Like it's unnervingly beautiful. And Attikus, I think, like the hair, the plentiful hair on your body kind of stands on edge, because it's like you're used to machines sounding a certain way, but like this kind of like high-pitched kind of beautiful tone is incredibly foreign to you, in terms of like, it'd be honestly the equivalent I think of is like if you've only ever heard like a diesel engine or someone like proper revving an engine, and then an electric car drives by. It's just unnervingly silent, and can go so much faster, so much quicker. It's just like it's just off based on your experience. Immediately, Eli, your eyes are just assaulted with kind of like a blast of almost like the 2001: A Space Odyssey, like screensaver thing, where it's just like lights and color, just essentially dropping you almost into a state of synesthesia, where you're overwhelming your senses and attempting to kind of put your brain at ease. Here's the problem, though. You're not exactly a Zen fella. So I'm going to need a roll to see if you're able to relax into this or not. If not, it's going to put your body at more risk during this procedure. Yeah.
I mean, Eli would definitely be making a concerted effort. Like he's doing this, been given an order. Mm-hmm. He's going to try to do what he's told to give the best chance of this working.
For sure. Yeah. And I to be clear, I don't think he's like, this is some bullshit and I don't want it. It's more so that for someone with a busy mind who normally like clouds it or like just full on smothers it with booze, to be sober while doing this is going to be a real rough. I mean, he's not entirely sober because he's still got a bunch of booze in the system, but you know what I mean? Like he's not with his normal thing, but I will give you a boost for that because you are legitimately trying on your way. I think this is going to be, I would say willpower. And let's go with vigilance, maybe? Or no, discipline. I'd go with discipline.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense for you.
That
it's
works.
only difficulty 3. It would be 2, but it's just an uncommon thing to be dealing with. You get a boost for, again, trying to follow orders as best you can.
That's just the one boost so far?
1 boost from that. And I'm going to give you 1 setback for not getting medical aid earlier that might have assisted you with this.
Okay. We just have the 1 story point?
You have 2 now because a very kindly GM spent 1 on a fairly innocuous roll.
All right. Well, I'm going to use one of those 2.
Okay.
Because I'd like a brain. And given that Valentyne's mission is a holy one, Eli would like to be around to help it. So I am going to use the Emperor's Blessing talent. So I'm going to add 2 boosts to this.
Nice. All right.
All right. Good to go?
Yep.
Oh, dear. Oh, hello. 6 successes, 1 threat.
Ooh. Phenomenal. So, yeah,
you relax,
Eli,
but you poop a little bit.
Eli, you with an effort, will yourself into kind of this charmed state. You let go, and your mind opens on screen. So that amount of successes, I'm actually going to skip the pain phase to this because I think you like your body almost recognizes this process as like a new drug it can enjoy. So it's just like, great, in we go. And we begin our deep dive. So one of the interesting things that's happened here is you would have received this imprint when you began in Cainhurst's service, and a lot's happened to you since then. So Laura, I'm curious, obviously we've talked a lot about the event about venting your crew to stop the Tyranid infection. What do you think the biggest idea that's been tumbling over and over in Eli's head is that would be at the surface here? Because you have so many successes, I'm also going to say, if you determine that he would not want this to be the thing that people see, that you can swap it for something else, but I need to know what you would swap it for.
I think it's like he replays this moment kind of over and over again in his head of like being in front of the when he's being like court-martialed afterwards, and he's in front of this like kind of a kind word for it would be like panel, but basically a bunch of upper rank Navy people who are basically like telling him that he deserves to die for what he did. And yeah, that kind of moment of just like kind of outrage that he felt, that's something that goes through his mind a lot. That's a lot of what he's quieting on a day-to-day basis with the drinking.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's not like there's just pictures showing, because that technology doesn't really exist. I think instead what you're seeing on the screens are there's just a ton of binary flying by. So it's a little bit like how in the Matrix there's like the people who can read the Matrix lines and be like, okay, here's what we're getting. So Kotov, in his halting manner, is describing what he's seeing to all of you as we go. Because he's wrapped up in his work, there's less hesitation, because he's worried. You can tell he's like almost worried about missing bits. So he gives you a quick rundown of that. Valentyne, Attikus, and Morgan, any reaction to this as it's being described to you? It's okay if there isn't. I'm just curious.
I think Morgan has no outward any reactions or facial expressions or anything, but she's watching very closely this whole situation. But I think she's standing on one end of the room, and then Toby's on the other end of the room, so she's watching it from multiple angles. But I think she internally feels a bit of empathy and feeling about this, because she's heard this from Eli before. Eli has, in drunken stupor, told her how upset he is about this situation. So I think it's something she already knows and
Gotcha.
feels bad for him.
Attikus, being a military man yourself, and particularly one who is very focused on the idea of order within the military and like doing one's job, how is this sequence reading for you?
Makes sense. It's your job to execute an order. It's your job to take the blame after. But he is, I would say, probably somewhat disturbed at this machine and what it's doing and what it's producing. So I think he's standing pretty close by to Eli in this like bed that he's kind of on. Should he receive the order to destroy this thing at any moment, he's poised to do so.
Gotcha. And Valentyne.
Valentyne is watching the screen, and Kotov with rapt attention, which for him is standing at military attention, hands behind back. With his metal eyes, he's incredibly hard to read to begin with, but this is just fully kind of paying attention to the environment. Knowing that he may voluntarily put himself through this procedure, he wants to track all the different parts of it and what the dangers are. He's also released Eugene, who's hovering around his shoulders, just getting an audio recording of everything happening in the room so that Valentyne can also look for any additional auditory evidence if he hears Kotov saying anything as it happens, like just having that kind of black box recording of everything as it goes.
Great. That makes sense. So as the tribunal continues to sort of play this scene out for you, Eli, eventually one of them stands, which is odd because that's not what happened. And as they stand, kind of there's almost a flourish as the silhouette of the the epaulets and the golden cord of kind of like high admiralty almost seems to melt and stretch into a jauntily worn cloak that's kind of cast over one shoulder in a somewhat again like a jaunty, almost carefree manner. And the figure seems to like take off the admiral's cap and kind of toss it aside in a very sort of casual manner, and slowly light begins to sort of come up on them as they step forward. The tribunal panel desks kind of melting away, and you see Kanehurst. And Kanehurst is he's got like a bit of a late era Tom Hanks vibe to him. So sort of those like round, sort of like rounder features. But again, like kind of like late era Tom Hanks. So like he's seen some shit, but there's still a kindness and a warmth to his face and his bearing. And Eli, it's one of the things that I think stings the most, which is he's just one of those people that's so easy to get along with and to want to like, that when you're with him, he's your best friend. And then the minute you're out of his sphere, he just seems to like you cease to exist, which is exactly what happened to you. He wasn't at this tribunal. He did stop them from executing you, but like he still let the tribunal happen because he was thinking about other stuff. When you were no longer useful, he ditched you. Mm-hmm. He's the kind of guy who transports his favorite bar to a new planet and then just like goes there when he needs a moment, just there's a bit of that.
Yeah.
Disfluency, but you can't help but I think there's almost like a warm feeling that kind of envelops your body as he steps forward, because there's just that unerring confidence and just that sense of I've got this in hand, which of course to a career military person, like exactly what you want from a commander. Knows what's going on, knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And as he steps forward, he just says, Eli Sharpe.
Wait, is this? And Eli says aloud, like, is this interactive?
And Kotov just says, it's your waking mind is it's interacting with the imprint that's on top of it. This would be very very dangerous if we put you under, or so just you can talk if you want, but it's just imprint. So whatever helps your brain is best. We don't want to be cleaning up any brain off the floor. So if you want to talk, go ahead and talk. I mean, if you got stuff to say, now's your time.
But I'm just talking to something in my head. It's not real.
Valentyne, given that Eli is a member of your retinue now, would you say anything to try and ease him through this, or would you let Kotov continue to do it? Seeing that Kotov is like very into the extraction of the information and not necessarily the vessel it is extracted from, or would you let it play out because you need to analyze the entire sequence?
And to be clear, Eli's just trying to make sure that he's doing this correctly.
Fully understand. Yeah. And it's the kind of thing that, again, like if everyone is a lab rat to Kotov, it's weird when the rats start asking questions. He doesn't know what to do with that. So he's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, Valentyne would speak from where he's standing, saying, speak to Kanehurst in any way that you would find interesting. What comes out of this conversation may prove fruitful for all of us.
Morgan, would you add anything to that? Or Toby? I'm sorry, I gotta keep asking about Toby. I keep forgetting.
Toby's just got his like zoom in eyes. I think Morgan would eventually sidle over and be next to Attikus so that she's kind of closer, but she wouldn't say anything.
Gotcha. So Eli, you see, you've got sort of an image of Inquisitor Raziel Kanehurst standing before you, nodding. a little slight smile.
All right, and kind of a bit awkwardly at first, Eli kind of nods and says, Inquisitor?
Eli Sharpe.
Correct,
Eli
sir.
Sharpe.
Inquisitor Canehurst.
Eli,
Sir.
you are gifted with an understanding of how to find your way out there amongst the stars. Not many of the people I've worked with could do that. It's a skill that a lot of people don't put much value in. We've forgotten the old ways, how difficult it was when our first ancestors took those first halting steps forward into a galaxy, a wider world. But you know. So when I say that you can find the first trace of me, should you need it, at these locations, and he mutters coordinates to you that immediately, Eli, like, you recognize exactly how you put that into navigation, how you would convey this information. And Canehurst just nods and he says, so you'll find a way station there. From there, you'll be able to find wherever in the galaxy I am. Just like our ancestors. You go find me amongst the stars. And then the message repeats. And basically it repeats like twice more before they'll pull you out. Is there anything you would want to do before you go?
No, like I think it was odd talking to him, but as soon as it repeated, it was just so obvious that like there's no point in interacting with this. So Eli just kind of gets down to business and speaks to the room, saying the coordinates.
Great. And so before Kotov pulls you out, he sidles over to Valentyne. Attikus, I assume you bristle at casual sidling over to the Inquisitor?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, bristle.
Bristle the arm.
Like just fist raises.
Pistons start going. And Kotov says, he's already plugged in, Inquisitor. Do you want me to make a template?
Yes, that would be excellent. Thank you.
And he gives you his most Goldbloomy grin to date. And he pats your chest, Eli, a couple times, and just says, "Yeah, right. So this is this is the part that kind of sucks."
Wait, I thought.
A button, what? And electricity courses through your body, Eli, and you pass out.
Super.
You come to sometime later with a horrific stench just wafting over you. And as you blink your eyes open, you find yourself yet again in the garden shed. This
Couldn't
time,
give me a nicer room.
No, hell no. They know what you like at this point. You have a hat over your face. There's an incredibly soft blanket that's been placed over you, and you can feel that there's like a sheet under you on the table. You open your eyes. You kind of like blink your eyes open to see kind of hanging aquillas just softly drifting left and right in the light, and you kind of hear a voice over your shoulder say, "Oh, you're awake. Please don't hit me. Please don't hit me. I just wanted to make sure that you were okay. There's some water, and we also have a bottle of Amersec for you. Enjoy or don't, I suppose. Emperor's grace be with you." And you hear like the clinking of the necklace as he kisses it, and Thaddeus just swoops out of the room.
Eli doesn't say anything. I don't think he's not ready to acknowledge
Totally understand.
Yeah.
So you roll up to sitting, and as promised, there's like a pitcher of water, and again like fancy fucking glassware because it's from this like fancy castle, and there's a bottle of Amersec with exactly one finger of Amersec left in it. So one drink's worth of Amersec at the bottom of the bottle, as well as a tumbler and a small container of ice.
I take I smell the Amasec first because, I mean, this thing has brought it supposedly.
It smells great. It smells old and it
doesn't
smells
smell
fancy
tainted.
as fuck. No. This smells like, and also it should be noted, the bottle is pristine.
Okay.
You don't get the sense that like the doc has been in here taking swigs. You get the sense that a bottle with exactly one drink was very purposefully left out for you. If you were to venture a guess, it's probably from the Inquisitor, but it sends a very specific message.
Eli takes a swig and then smashes the bottle on the floor.
Oh, it's the good shit. Great. So you smash the bottle. You gather your coat. You feel tired in a bone weary way. Your head is splitting, but it's a different headache than you're used to. So at least there's some fucking novelty to it. Your strain has been recovered.
Oh, that's nice.
Because it turns out you actually got a pretty decent sleep. They set you up proper in the garden shed. You make your way back out, rejoin the world, and go in search of. You're met by much more polite stormtroopers than previously. One of whom has his wrist in a cast, and they basically bring you to the ship. So, Valentyne, Attikus, and Morgan, having got the coordinates for the waypoint, a quick sort of cursory inquisitorial archive scan suggests that, like, obviously it would be impossible for an inquisitor to imprint their entire retinue with knowledge of where they are at any given time, but knowledge of a thing that could basically create a chain of data points. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So basically it's like a breadcrumb satellite that's been left to help point you in the right direction. It's within the system, obviously, to get you going in the right. Well, I mean, it would have to be within the system, but it's close enough by that it won't be long to find the first one, take you on your way. That said, you have the information you need. You know Gnarl's body is out there somewhere with more information about your visions. Is there anything else you would want from Hearthold before you go? Again, this will be your base of operations moving forward, but once you get off-world, your Inquisitor rank gets big old quotes around it, because technically you are dead. At least until the slow grinding bureaucracy of the Imperium catches up.
Is there any other Eldari or Necron tech in this place?
You could go talk to Iskander Maid, who is the sort of head inquisitor of the Xenos sect here. But no, amongst the Hereticus, there might be like bits and bobs, but not enough to upgrade. Because basically, like, Kotov has been given a lot of stuff since he's been here, but it's stuff that the Hereticus chapter would have, like stuff that Graves would be able to give. Maid may have other things that just aren't here, but you would have to go. You'd have to go up to the spire and the landing pads to talk to Iskander if you felt so inclined.
Yep. Valentyne would look through the records that he has from Billingberg to see if he has anything to trade. He wants to keep the tomb ships. They're too useful. And he promised Davy and Mutis a report of basically he'll give him everything that isn't useful, where it's like, if he thinks they're actual heretics, like, go fucking burn it down. He doesn't care about any of that. But is there anything there that the Ordo Xenos may be particularly interested in, or in terms of assets or anything, so that he's not just showing up to be like, hey man, can I have your illegal shit? I have nothing to offer in return. I've been here a week.
Honestly, no, I think that's a good question. So from the files you have access to of Billingberg's, the Vicodin information is actually pretty helpful. You've already shared it with Graves, but the fact that Vicodin is made of orcs is, like, honestly at this point almost an Imperium-wide problem for how large that distribution network is. So that's not nothing. There's probably a list of names of people that Vicodin was working with on planet that would have been aware. Again, you sent cleanup crews, so might not be as helpful. The information about the Abacus network, so the tomb ships, the Abaci, you could share that because it is based on Xenos tech. So that would be of interest to Maid, but there's also a chance, not knowing this Inquisitor at all, that he would launch an all-out assault on all of those.
Valentyne wants that. Nobody gets to know about that. That's too useful to him.
Yeah. I guess the only other thing would be the knowledge that there is an Eldar defector, possibly, or at least collaborator somewhere out of Eldar space and in Imperium space. But again, it's a pretty loose lead, so nothing huge to trade on that front, unless yeah. I mean, you could also turn over Billingberg's records, but again, that exposes a lot of stuff you're hoping to use.
Yeah. Valentyne would probably talk to Trisaeus first to find out if there's anything that the Hereticus have that the Xenos would want, where he could trade information between Ordos.
Okay. Can you roll me let's go with like maybe a forbidden lore?
Sure.
Let's go forbidden lore and intellect, difficulty 3, and this is basically like a roll to determine what Trisaeus is able to get for you.
Cool.
I'll give you a boost for being in good with Graves. You're very much on side with him, and he did kind of promise you any assistance you might need. I'll also give you an additional boost because you're new. I feel like a new Inquisitor showing up with information might be an attractive prospect. We're currently at 1 and 4 again.
I think this is a just in case measure. It's not of huge stakes to him, so I won't use those yet. 1 triumph, 3 threat.
Ooh.
Okay. Sure. Let's go with this. There is that's kind of fun. No, that doesn't work. I think we can say there's like a recovered Tyranid carapace that is amongst, honestly, the lost and found of Hereticus, in terms of just like some Inquisitor had it in a crate in the Hereticus storage. It was never claimed. It's one of those weird like lost luggage pieces where it's like someone brought this here. It's valuable enough to the Xenos that to Ordo Xenos to take a look at it just to see if there's anything new that can be gleaned from it. But there is a sense amongst the Ordo Hereticus that like someone still could come back for this. So it's been logged. It's basically like in evidence. The threat, I think, is taking it would not sit well with the Hereticus, like the Ordo Hereticus folk. They wouldn't like hate you for it, but they've made clear their stance, like, no, we're not giving you this. Someone's coming back for it. So unless you want to work to subvert that, it'll just be kind of like a, oh, hey, what? Kind of situation from the 2 threat.
How could I subvert that? Subversion is very much Valentyne's fucking bag.
Well, so the information you have is it was left behind by an Inquisitor. It's currently sitting in evidence as someone might return for this one day, and as a result, they're hesitant to give it up. So how would you try and get around that in a way that would satisfy them?
Morgan. He would just call her into his office and say, I am fascinated by your moral flexibility and your gifts at, one could say, falsehood. There is something I require that is in Hereticus storage that they believe has been placed by an Inquisitor, unknown name, unknown time, no return date. The Order Xenos would be very fascinated by it, which would allow us to facilitate other deals that become useful. I'd like you to get it for me in a way that won't get me in any trouble.
Oh, yes. Into the Inquisitorial storage. That's whatever you say, Inquisitor.
Excellent. To be clear, I will have to disavow this mission if you are caught, so please don't get caught.
Yes, this place has very lax security. Yes, it'll be fine.
Excellent. So you won't require assistance, or would you like me to second someone to you for this task?
Actually, yes. Can I take your Attikus with me?
No, you can have Eli.
This episode of the Valentyne Heresy features Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter as Attikus Vis, Laura Hamstra at EL Hamstring on Twitter as Eli Sharpe, Del Borovic at Deltastic on Twitter as Morgan Rhalls, and our Game Master Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode was edited and mixed by Laura Hamstra, and the Valentyne Heresy's artwork was created by Del Borovic at delborovic.com, DELBOROVIC. Our theme song is The Hordes by Megan McDuffie, and our ads use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR, available at freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dum-Dums and Dice, you can visit our website at dumdumdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumdumdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumdumdice. We have merchandise available at redbubble.com/people/dumdumdice, and most importantly, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Ave Imperator, and death to all the heretics.
Dum-Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time. The Half-Blind Prophet, Christopher Little, Sue One, George Dolby, Richard Cranium, Sammy Boy, Orion Birchfield, Scott Garland, Benjamin V, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Logan, Fire Unfriendly, Acrix, Grandma Likes D&D, Alan, Austin Nut Powers Fry, Stabby Stranger, Glitch Trick, Roman Brown, Shulzari, Christian Mendez, Spot Allen, Flynn 1138, Alarain Okapi, OMG It's Big Nick, Steve Wees, D&D and Things, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.